Welcome everybody to the Mary Grant Nature Preserve meeting. Today is Saturday, January 20th, 2024. I got the date right this time.
Good job.
We do have a quorum. We have 4 members here of our committee, so we will have an official meeting. I have a very loose agenda that I wanted to discuss. Primarily, it is setting dates for events that we want to have this year more than anything else. So I will go right down my agenda. So old business, the first section I have is property. Dick brought up last year that we need to work on the threshold for the main door, the side door that goes into the barn. The last I knew Dick, looking back at other notes I had, welcome Kelly. The last I remember, Dick, you were supposed to ask and see if you can find someone to work on that threshold.
Yeah,
Is it rotted? Is that what
It is starting to rot,
Yeah,
yes.
starting to rot.
And the backup plan was that I was going to tackle it this spring.
To go along with that, those 2 posts on that little extension on the back end of the,
Yep,
Oh, yeah, that holds the chain.
I've got the.
4x4s or the
well, I got the
blocks.
4x4s that are sitting inside,
Mm-hmm.
and then the concrete
Yep.
base. So
Okay.
it's just gotta be, somebody needs to just go in there and
Oh, we could,
cut those 2x4.
So we can
4x4s.
Do that.
tackle that
Yeah.
when we're there for our spring
Yeah,
cleanup this
but
year.
I just want to.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
All right, thank
point out
you.
that Those were the 2 things that I think that we should address come.
Yeah.
I agree. So do you just want me to do the threshold when we're there for spring cleanup as well, or do you still want to try to find somebody?
As I say,
I'm okay doing it, I just won't be
cool.
professional,
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah, but
No,
as I
Tim
say,
can do it.
those 2 little
Be
things,
Okay.
as
professional. Oh,
I-
good. Tim can do it.
as far as I know.
Okay.
We're
you know,
together.
Should be
Yeah.
looked at and taken care of.
Yeah, so Kelly just volunteered her husband to do it for us. so.
The contract,
Sorry, Tim.
we'll be fine with that.
One of the things we've talked about in the past is replacing that post fence we have there as well. I'm on the fence, no pun intended, as to whether we should actually replace the fence
I just get rid of it.
or just try to get rid of it or to shore up the vertical posts.
Okay.
Well-
The purpose of the fence, okay, is trying to,
To keep people from driving
No,
back there
keep-
more than anything.
you know, the motorized vehicles from
Yep.
going out back there.
Okay.
And so, as I say, when we're developing the property, I'm very fortunate that there was a businessman in Rochester that caught on my comment that about putting up a fence. He
Mm-hmm.
volunteered and he paid for the fence. And then the kids from the school
Right.
down here ended up digging a hole and putting it up. Now, that's quite a few years ago, but,
So full disclosure, I don't care if we just remove the fence. I don't care if we try to fix it. I don't care if we try to leave it as it is. As far as the wide side where we usually set the picnic tables up, I'm not too worried about people driving motorized vehicles back there because we usually have all the picnic tables right there. The narrow side, that may be an issue because we don't usually have anything there to block cars or vehicles from driving back there.
Has it been a big problem?
It hasn't that I've seen in the 4 or 5 years that I've been on the committee. But the fence is rather old and we may be able to just shore up the vertical fence posts, which would potentially buy us a couple more years.
well, as I say, I think it would be just a case of pulling up the post holes out and then digging the hole, maybe put a little bit of concrete or something.
Right.
You know, just to-
Okay. So we can investigate that during spring cleanup too and see what we think our best option is going to be. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Now, if somebody would come along and volunteer to provide us with a new fence, I think we'd accept it, right?
We'd be foolish not to accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. If we replace the fence, I do want a fence very similar to what's there to kind of maintain the history and the look of the property. I don't want to just put a chain link fence there. I think it looks like garbage. So
Yeah, correct.
chain link fences do have their place. The Mary Grant property is not one of them. The last thing I have on my property list is the signs. So the big sign out front is at a place where it's going to need some help, whether we can sand it down, refinish it, and repaint it, not necessarily in that order, or do we need to replace it? I think a couple of years ago, I was able to secure the sign better to the posts that it's on. What are our thoughts on that?
I think there's a couple ways we can approach that. We can either look at what it would take manpower-wise and stuff to finish it up, or we could talk about a fundraiser that every time, like at the picnic, using that money to
Right.
do a new sign.
Okay.
Or we might get more donations at town meeting if people know that it's for something particular.
Yeah,
And isn't there a
agree.
person who does signs for the town, has in the past, like?
So there is a sign company in town that we can approach.
Yeah,
They typically don't do wooden signs that I've seen,
yeah,
but there's plenty of carpenters in town that might do it.
Is it like on its last leg?
Can
Can it make it through?
I think
another-
we can refinish it and seal it a little bit better and probably get a few more years out of it. It does, at minimum, need to be sanded and repainted, I think.
Do we know who the committee is that worked on the sign out here for the church?
I do not, but I can ask Jennifer.
Because that might be our option too.
Okay.
I don't know who did that.
I honestly think that was Dasco that donated the sign, but don't hold me to it.
All right, well, we can check.
So we can kind of table that. I can check with Jennifer, see if she knows
we
someone
just
in
might have
town
some
who
options that,
has the wherewithal.
yeah.
And if we can replace it, fine. If not, we'll look towards refinishing it over the summer and getting it cleaned up and
There you go.
making sure it's solid to buy some more time. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Last year's pumpkin party, which I think it was a successful failure. I think the rain, the weather really
We
screwed
could
us
have got a
up.
break on that thing.
We had actually, Tammy and I, in our mind, were saying, we'll just try to do it the Sunday after, and someone else suggested that. I went up that Sunday morning, and I'm glad we didn't suggest that, because there was a lake in that
Like,
Yeah, it was
divot, if
bad.
you will, or the low spot in the property. I just don't think it would have worked. I do think we had a successful drive-through party. We were able to pivot now that we know we can do that. I think we managed to distribute, about 70 pumpkins? We had about 30 or 35 left over.
Yeah,
Along with goodie bags and candy and all of that. So we were still able to get the pumpkins in the hands of the kids in the community.
but we were able to make some really happy pigs.
Yes, absolutely. So,
this is gonna make someone some happy bacon.
me, please? So to that end, we'll talk more about the pumpkin party a little bit down in our agenda, but I'd like for us to consider moving it up a week, having it 2 weeks before the school's trunk or treat.
Yeah, I think that gives us a little bit more play in the calendar, if you will,
Right.
if we have to move it due to weather.
Right, that gives us a week to postpone and still have the party on the property. And then if the weather still doesn't cooperate, then we can pivot and either do a drive-through or we can team up with the PTG again.
Yeah,
And I think it might be a nice start to the fall Halloween if
Yeah.
we're first, and then they have them out, and then they go,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed driving by your house over Halloween and Christmas, by the way.
Thank you.
Especially, I saw you and the kids out there a couple of times putting lights up and stuff. That was cute. Any other old business before we go on? Hearing none? New business. So the first thing I want to do is introductions. There's a couple of new faces here. So we do have a new committee member, Marcia Y. Marcia,
Welcome.
would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? You can say no.
I live on Balch Lake,
okay.
down by the dam, and as I mentioned before, but some of you weren't here, I just sort of discovered this property and this group and everything by accident when I was looking for things to do with my twin 5-year-old nephews.
Oh.
And when I went there, they had left for the after the weekend. But I went there and walked the property, and it's beautiful. It is just a gorgeous property. So I kind of wanted to find out a little bit more about it and see what I could do to help get the word out so that other people
Okay.
can enjoy it.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Awesome,
We
yeah.
certainly appreciate the extra warm body as it is. So,
None of us are warm today.
you and I have already introduced ourselves. My name is Dan Krampitz. I am the chair of the committee. I've been on the committee for 5 years, 6 years now.
Yeah.
I've been the chair for at least 5 or 6 of those. I like to joke and say I was kind of coerced into being on the committee, being the chair. And as much as I complain to my wife sometimes about it, I really love it. I love what the committee does. I love the property, and I really think it's a piece of us, and it's a great, as you said, it's the hidden gem in Acton, I think.
It is.
I'll let you introduce yourself, young lady.
I'm Tammy, I'm Dan's wife.
I'm sorry.
Poor thing.
Yeah, I answered an ad to come and help at the Mary Grant on an event, a pumpkin carving party that they were having, and the rest is history. I've been there ever since.
Tim is our de facto cook, if you will.
Yeah.
So anytime we do anything food related, especially if it revolves around cooking, she's all in.
Yeah. I'm kind of a food Nazi. Sorry.
I'm Kelly Collins. I love Mary Grant. It's been a part of a good portion of coming here in the summers, and now I live here. I've been on the committee 3 years.
3 or 4 years, yeah.
That's all I thought.
And it really was my first step in trying to get involved in the town, and then I've done others. I'm on other committees now too, but this committee is my heart and soul, and I love what we do here for the kids, and it's a great group to work with.
All right.
Aw.
Dick?
I'm Dick Neal, and I've been involved with the Mary Grant from the start. I was on the board of the Three Rivers Land Trust,
Oh, yeah.
who turned around and talked to selectmen at that time to accept the property. And in 2005, the first meeting we had, I was elected as the chairman, and so I'm deeply involved with the property for, like I say, since 2005. 2007, I was officially set up as the Mary Grant Nature Reserve. So if you need any history or anything on it, feel free to contact me.
He's our de
Okay.
facto historian. He knows everything there is to know about that property.
Yeah.
Mr. Norwood, as our liaison, would you like to introduce yourself to Karen and,
Sure.
and Marcia?
My name is Daniel Lord. I am one of the select persons for the town of Acton, and I'm the liaison for the committee. So if you have any questions or anything, I'm here to help. And I also used to serve on the committee for a short stint before I was elected. I couldn't do both. Fortunately, if I could, but I still love to volunteer. I think it's such a great, like you said, hidden gem. Like I discovered it like a year or two ago, and I just think of like my niece and my nephew and the benefits that they receive from all the other kids impacted.
And we have a potential member with us as well, Karen. Karen wanted to join and come, not necessarily join, but come to the meeting and hear what we're all about. Karen, would you like to say anything about yourself?
Hello, I'm Karen. I live in Acton. I've lived here for 10 years now. I didn't really know there was a committee for Mary Grant. I've been using the property. I go for walks. I take my dog. And then the Acton newsletter, when that started coming out electronically, and they put the positions down at the bottom there, I saw it and it had been open and it kept showing up. I'm like, I really like walking the property. Maybe I'll inquire.
Okay.
Well,
Here I am.
We'd be happy to have you join us if you're so moved to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
We're always looking for new people, new ideas, and mostly more hands to help. We do get a lot of volunteers when we have our bigger events,
Yeah.
but the smaller events, sometimes it's just 2 or 3 of us that seem to do everything around there, at least on the day of the event. Not trying to put anybody down, it's just sometimes people just can't get there. All right, ideas for 2024 events. So we've already been kind of asked by the town if we would supply snacks and drinks for the town meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for April 6th. So I think that's a gimme, that's a Saturday. And I'm thinking we're just going to handle that the way we've handled it in the past, where Tammy and I will just go like to BJ's or Costco or something and get up some of those muffins and donuts, and we'll have earn a coffee and some drinks and things like that. I don't see the town meeting lasting through lunch, so the first year we did this, the town meeting lasted through lunch, and we were forewarned that that would happen. So we were able to supply lunch as well for the people there.
Yeah,
That
burgers
was-
and hot dogs, and yes, I brought my grill, and yes, I was out there
Grilled it up.
flipping burgers and roasting hot dogs.
So is this a fundraiser?
Yes,
And so there's a collection box there? or
Yes.
someone-
Yeah, it's more of a
So typically
donation.
what we'll do is the committee members will go out and we'll bring all this stuff in.
we set off to the side of the school.
Yep, and then at the end of the line, so we set up 3 or 4 tables where there's snacks and drinks, and at the end, there's a big bucket we have for donations. The townspeople are not shy about putting money in there. We don't have to ask for it. We don't have to tell them it's there.
Sweet.
They just know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's kind of how I like to run it, where we're not necessarily asking for money. And in fact, when Tammy and I supply things, I would say probably 75% of the time, we don't look for reimbursement from the committee either. If you do purchase something from the committee, you're absolutely entitled to get reimbursed if you so choose. You would just have to work through me, and I would get the reimbursement stuff to Jennifer, and she'd get you a check cut. So are we okay doing that the same way this year?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah. It
Okay.
works well.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination, fundraiser and service to the town.
Right.
oh yeah,
And-
absolutely.
and it Gives people, kind of make them a little aware of the Mary Grant.
It absolutely does, and you know, if somebody comes to the meeting and they're hungry and they don't have money, I don't care. If you're hungry, I'm going to feed you.
Right.
It doesn't-
Being
that
the
doesn't,
foodie that you are.
Absolutely.
right? So that, if you want to leave us a donation, that is 100% accepted, but I do not look for that.
So let me ask you something, besides the box, is there any other sort of visual that people that come through see about, that talks about the Mary Grant,
Yeah.
or there is, okay?
So we do
we
have
put
flyers
flyers.
there, little trifold pamphlets. One of the things I want to do this year is get a vinyl sign made that we can hang on the front of the tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
wanted to do that for a few years now. I just couldn't get my finger out of my rear end to actually get it ordered and get it. All right, so that's the town meeting. That's April 6th.
Account through the hospital.
Oh, you do.
I was saying I have a Canva account through the
Okay.
hospital,
Okay,
and the sign might be much cheaper through there. Let me
Okay.
take a look at it.
yeah, if you want to look, if
Yeah.
you want to put something together and just tell me how much it is, I can look at my sources and we can make a decision. Okay. Spring cleanup. So last year, we tried to have the spring cleanup on Earth Day,
When's
which
that?
made a world of sense. It's usually like the 3rd or 2nd Saturday in April.
In April, okay.
We had to push it because there was too much snow on the ground last year, so we couldn't really do a spring cleanup. Do we want to look at dates for our spring cleanup?
What is Earth Day this year? 20-something?
That's what I'm looking for. Monday, April 22nd.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I don't want to go on a Monday.
Well,
Oh,
I have a hospital to
I
run
got
on
to
Monday.
work.
But that Saturday or Sunday before?
My concern with doing it that early is
The
it's
snow.
still potentially snow and still potentially cold.
Well, that's New England
Thank
Regionals
God,
weekend
the
anyway.
snow's gonna be all gone.
So why don't we tentatively plan it for,
First week of May.
well, I was going to say Saturday, April 20th with a backup date of May 4th. Does
May
that
the
work
4th
for
be
everybody?
with you.
I'd also live here.
So Marcia and Karen, typically spring cleanup, I'm hoping with the new contractor for groundskeeping, if you will, this year, that there won't be as much for us to do as we've had to do in the past. But usually it's, we clean up the majority of the area around the barn. We've cleared an area of a whole bunch of saplings before, but it's pick up all those sticks and leaves and get the picnic tables out of the barn, clean up the barn a little bit. We always walk the trails. A couple people always walk the trails and clean the trails up, blow the leaves off the trail so it's obvious where the trail is.
Right.
And if there's any trees or anything down,
That we have to get cut down and
we
moved out of
would,
the way.
we'd cut them up and move them out of the way.
Okay.
I
And
think
we've had
last year, Dan and I made 2 or 3 trips to the dump with my trailer of leaves and twigs and brush and, yeah,
So much work.
you
Now,
loved it.
that's, who does that?
The committee and any volunteers that we can get.
So we get Boy Scouts help quite a
I
bit.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
could you talk to Sanford High School and say,
We
look,
do.
Can we exchange gym points for some strong?
Well,
Strong
we
boys for-
can't do that, but they can get their volunteer hours. We can sign off on
Right, so
them.
all the high
Okay.
schools in the area require their students to have volunteer hours to graduate.
Mhm.
So it just means we saw an off that said they volunteered for us for 4, 6, however many hours they
All right,
volunteered.
so that you bring them in as well? or-
When we can get them to come, yes, absolutely. We've had, we've had some teenagers from another state, from another school, who have come over,
Yep.
thanks to Kelly, that have come over and gotten some volunteer hours, and they manned our trails for the Halloween walk.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we encourage the local kids to come and volunteer as much as we can get them there, but, they're teenagers.
Uh-huh, I hear you.
One of the things I want to try this year, because I know there's a couple of new scouting troops in the area, we've talked as a committee before about offering the property for them to have a weekend camping trip or something, right?
Yeah.
If I can reach out to the scout leaders again, whether it's Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and say, if you can come help us with our cleanup, you don't have to, but you can always use the property as long as we know about it a couple of weeks ahead of time, right? So that's another way we could potentially get people in there. And of course, all the scouts require some kind of volunteer hours now as well. So it plays hand in hand, I think. It's always a challenge to get volunteers for anything. All right, so spring cleanup, April 20th or May 4th, weather dependent. Do we want to try to do a picnic this year? So, as I was saying earlier to Marcia, I don't think the picnic is as well attended as we would like. However, I do think it's important to have that for the community. It always seems like it's the same people that come every year, and that's fine, but
When do you hold that? What month do you hold that?
I don't remember when we had it last year.
I'm working on it.
I think it was July.
All right, so the kids are out of school then?
Yeah, absolutely.
July 15th was last year.
So last year, we actually incorporated a pie baking contest as well. Didn't have a lot of entries, we only had like 3 or 4 entries. But I know one of the kids in our community won 2nd place, I think, which it's a big deal for that kid.
It was a huge deal for that kid.
So, since the kids seem to help draw in
Mhm.
the parents, I don't know, maybe have a scavenger hunt or something that will bring them in, and the parents will come, and then, do you provide food as well here?
We can, absolutely,
Is it
yeah.
BYOF?
So specifically for the picnic, we bill it as a bring your own picnic type deal. However, we always have stuff
Food.
available, whether it's
Yeah.
finger sandwiches or hamburgers and hot dogs, or
Yeah.
we'll always supply drinks perhaps or something like that. And then we have other things available. We say for sale, but really it's by donation.
Okay.
And that's another big area where I think we tend to make donation money every year. I think last year there was close to $300 in the bucket at the end of the day.
That's a good chunk.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did
Yes.
it for this turnout that we had. But we did have some new people there last
Yeah.
year, so that's always
Yeah.
good, little by little, getting newer people there.
and I'm hoping that having the newsletter that gets mailed out
Yeah.
available to us, we'd get the word out more. The people who don't necessarily see it on Facebook or something like that. So when do we want to look at potentially doing a picnic? Are we still looking at July?
Middle of July?
That would be 13, 14 that weekend or 2021 that weekend.
I would prefer personally the 13th, 14th weekend. Only because I have something to do on the 21st.
Do I not have that on my calendar?
No, you do not. It's not on my calendar. I just know about it.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So what do we think about Saturday, July 13th this year?
Try it.
Right.
Okay.
Saturday, July 15th?
13th.
13th.
So typically, as we get closer, we'll have another meeting to cover everything again anyway. But as we get closer to these events, we'll have a meeting that would talk solely about that event. So probably the end of June, we would meet to talk specifically about the picnic and who's going to do what and what do we want to have and all of that.
We're not considering a bonfire in July, are we?
Nope.
Okay.
And that brings us to our pumpkin carving party. As I mentioned before, I really think we should target Saturday, October 12th this year. That's going to be 2 weeks before when we think the trunk or treat is going to happen at the school.
Can I just put out there that Monday is Columbus Day. The kids won't have school. Sorry, Indigenous Peoples Day. The kids won't have school, so if weather is not cooperating, we have an extra day to maybe fit that in.
Okay.
If we do the 11th and then think about the 12th if we had to.
Or the
You mean
12th,
or
the 13th.
Are you looking at the correct year?
No, I'm not. I'm not looking at a year at all. I'm looking over her shoulder.
So why don't we say the 12th with a potential weather date of the 13th?
Perfect.
And then if we have to push it a week, that gives us the following weekend as well without bumping into trunk or treat, which if we have our pumpkin carving the same day as trunk or treat, we're not going to have any kids.
Although we went to trunk or treat just as us, not the Mary Grant, and we had fun.
Yeah.
We decorated the back of the pickup truck as a pumpkin patch, if you
She
will.
had all sorts of pumpkins.
Yeah, and was able to, take care of that and get rid of all of that extra candy that we had.
So that's absolutely something as a committee, if we wanted to, we could consider is going to trunk or treat as the committee and having a theme that we all dress up the same way and we have a trailer or a truck or something decorated and we can just stand there and hand out whatever candy we have left over.
We could dress up as Harry Potter characters.
I was a scarecrow last year, but I couldn't end up making it due to
I think we were,
COVID.
farmers last year? Yeah,
Yeah.
because we had the
Yeah.
pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
With the
Okay.
overalls and.
So that's the events that I know we're going to do. In years past, we've talked about a scavenger hunt, which Marcia already brought up, which I think is a great idea.
Do you want to do that,
With the picnic.
the picnic, yeah?
Scavenger
We
hunt
could
with
either
the
do it
picnic.
with the picnic, or we could try to do it in August.
Oh, that'd be good.
Oh,
You know what you didn't mention with the picnic was, it says with music. What's the,
So, in the past, we've talked about maybe trying to get a band there, or I would just DJ it. I have a small sound system that I can use, just have music on in the background. I think that's what we did last year. I would love to get a band there. The problem is finding a band or a group that would appeal to the overall demographic of people there versus just country music or just rock or just bluegrass or something like that. Whereas if one of us just plays music off of our phone or a laptop, then we can do whatever mix we want. And again, as we get closer, we will talk more about that. I know of a band that I'm somewhat friendly with, but I don't believe that they would appeal to the majority of people that are there.
they're a Southern rock tribute style band.
One
Like
time
Leonard
we had
Skinner?
a group from down in Milton.
Yep.
don't know
Oh, I
whether
can't
they're still
remember their name.
available or not.
There's so many bands that perform at the campground, though.
Yeah.
I wonder who they have that might be interested in,
And we can always just put something out on Facebook and say, we're looking for a small band that can play a community picnic.
Mhm.
Reach out, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put it in the newsletter.
I
Could
can
you-
ask to have it put in the newsletter
Well, yeah,
and then put it in the newsletter.
yeah.
So I do the newsletter, just so you guys are aware. I'm the one that puts it together and sends it out every week. So I love the idea of the scavenger hunt. We started talking about this last year. We couldn't pull it together. I'm okay with having it with the picnic if you want to do that. I'm okay with having it as a separate event. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm particularly just thinking of putting it with the picnic only to be able to increase the number of people that come
Right.
in for that. If you had a scavenger hunt solely on its own with nothing else, like what would that?
What's the draw beside the scavenger hunt?
Right, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Other opinions?
I think it's a good idea to have an activity to go along with the picnic. People might hang
Yeah.
Okay.
around a little more. They'll bring the kids to do the scavenger hunt, and then they'll see their neighbor and sit down and
Yeah.
chit chat.
And that's the overall desire for
Right.
the community and neighbors to get together and be able to chit chat and get to know one another.
Mhm.
I know people better because of the community picnic.
Right.
And I'm not a particularly outgoing person myself, so.
Oh, okay.
So with the
Okay.
scavenger hunt, that means probably the month or two before, we would have to get together and start planning it. How do we want it? Can it be a phone picture scavenger hunt? Can it be a piece of paper, find these things, et cetera, right? So
Yeah.
we would need to figure that out, find out what we're gonna put there for a scavenger hunt. Is it gonna be things that are already at the preserve? Is it going to be things we're going to put there,
Yeah,
right?
like either a nature scavenger hunt or
Right.
something.
Or a combination of, right?
Oh,
So
that's true, yeah.
somewhere on the property, there's a
The other thing
bucket,
I-
a Home Depot bucket, or,
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking about is the different ages,
right,
so that you'd have to.
Or
kids-
go along with the story that's being played right there.
you're reading my mind.
Yeah, because they have a story and then use characters from the story or items from the story
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they have to find.
Like that.
So then they have to
Okay.
actually read the story and then they'll go and then, like say in the story,
Or
whatever it
in the
says.
story or clues or something.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, in the
Okay.
story, so, yeah.
I like that idea, because
So
that
we'll-
gets people there to read the book too.
To read the book and then we could hide, say, whatever the character is carrying in their hand or a jacket, they're wearing
Okay.
a red jacket, find the red jacket that so-and-so is wearing in the
I
story.
like that idea a lot.
So we need to find out from the library
What
what
the
story
story
will
is.
be for that time frame.
Right,
Yeah.
so I'm just doing the math in my head. They'll book in spring.
They change it out 4 times a year,
Yeah,
right?
so they'll probably change it out again in July, I believe, give or take.
So that's even better, because it'll be a new story.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And then we can get some people interested in the story, walk.
All right, so the picnic with a scavenger hunt, we'll need to get together to plan and figure out the scavenger hunt once we know what book the library is gonna put out there this year. And that may play into nicely, maybe the committee can volunteer to help the library putting the book up that time of year too.
Yep,
I know in the past, the library board just had someone else do it, the last time someone did it for the library board. I know Timmy and I have been there with the library board to swap the book out. There's all kinds of options.
How many times a year do they change it?
4.
Four times a year.
Four
Okay,
times,
because a
yeah.
lot, when I went through, it was, identifying trees,
Right,
different trees and stuff.
They have to find a story that has the correct amount of pages for
The
the
correct
correct
amount
amount
of
of
charts.
boards
Right.
up throughout the walk. So that's what they base it on. I mean, they look for a theme and then they look for something that has enough pages to cover it.
so then the question I have is, as a committee, do we want to volunteer to swap the story out?
sure.
Whenever they swap it out, June or July.
Yeah, because that'll give us a leg up on,
And then we can read the
Read it.
story as we put it up to find things that we want to incorporate into the
Absolutely.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like this. I like this a
Well,
lot.
that's also helpful with our showing the committees working together.
Right.
So multiple
Okay.
birds with one stone.
amen.
And the other thing we've done in the past, which I consider was a huge flop, was the community yard sale.
Yeah,
Do we want to try to do that again or no?
I don't think
Why
so.
was it a flop? What happened?
We had one
Or what
person
didn't
set a
happen?
table up, that's it.
You had one person. Oh, I
Yep.
see.
Because
What
I
month-
think-
What month was it held?
July or August, it was in the
August,
middle
I
of summer.
think, but isn't it
Summer.
part of it, they do that already for another fundraiser for somewhere else, doesn't it?
Probably, yeah.
Shapley.
Well, I thought they had some here in our, one year, they had some here in our.
At one point, there
Why?
was one here in the town hall as well, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that was last year.
yeah, so I think we encroached, I just think it was just
Too much.
Too much,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
What do
I'm
you
okay
think,
with
Danielle?
bagging the yard sale idea.
Question?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk.
Of
You
course you
most
are.
certainly are.
Like the yard sale thing, do you try to do that at the?
At the
Fairground
property.
Preserve?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or- So what if you did it in a more public spot that people could
We could,
drive by and see?
we
Yeah.
could. I think the reason we try to do things at the preserve is to get people on the property and check it out, more than anything else, right? I'm totally okay with seeing if we can get the town hall for a day and doing it here. Or talking to the fire department, see if we can set up in their parking lot or Iron Tails or whatever.
My other thought, instead of the yard sale, was doing a annual toy swap,
Mm-hmm.
where kids are getting like toys and boots, sports equipment, because people are always passing it around town. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
And instead, just having one spot where everybody can come to the Mary Grant, and while you're there, hey, we have this, we have that. Do you guys want to do some swap? And we're not going to really raise any money, but it might be
Yeah.
a good community thought,
That's actually a great idea.
you know?
And that'll help out the rec
The rec.
folks too,
Right, because
because,
we can join together with the rec, another joining
Right.
of committees, and say, hey, everything's gonna be here. It's the beginning, who wants what, you know?
Okay.
Do a swap, and donations to either could be helpful.
When would you think that is a good time? When do you think would be a good time to have that type of event?
Probably in the spring, because that's right before soccer starts, or summer.
I think you could do it any
Spring base-
season to be able to swap
Yeah,
stuff.
we could,
but-
right? Baseball comes in the spring, right, and then soccer's right after that.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is the most needed gear that gets swapped in town right now?
I'm guessing cleats and baseball bats and.
Okay, so springtime before all the spring and summer sports start?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Anybody, I mean, it's just me throwing stuff out instead of a normal yard sale.
Right.
Have something that's pointed,
no, I think
Yeah.
that's good.
you know, and say this is the sports swap, you know, or something like that called.
I like the adding in like, boots
right.
and coats and jackets. for
Yeah, right,
kids,
you
too.
could, we could call it the sports swap, but we can have a table that's winter gear,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
that
Yeah.
people can donate and switch around and,
Yeah.
because
and-
kids will have grown out of their winter
Yeah.
correct,
stuff, so
right?
it would be perfect to,
Mhm.
And I'm all about keeping things within our little community.
Mhm.
I don't donate a lot outside of the community to larger organizations because when I do donate, I want it to help people that I'm near to,
right.
right? So I try to donate and help out as much as I can within the community
Mhm.
and not far away from it. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Do we want to try to make it happen for this year?
Why don't we, can we think about like in May? Would that be too far or?
No, I think in May might be good, you know, people will be starting to do their spring cleaning and going, oh, I'm gonna donate all these jackets and stuff to.
Right.
Instead, they can bring them here, we can and there'll be no questions asked, right?
Yeah.
So people will just come, take, and if they wanna donate, they can, or if they just come in because they're looking for the next year.
Yeah,
come
bring a
get
bag,
it.
grab
So-
a bag.
Yeah,
What if we had someone available for a couple of weekends before the event
mhm,
where we would
We could
accept all of
connect.
this gear and organize it?
yep,
And then the day of the event, it's here, or wherever we have the event. If you bring stuff to donate, that's great, but there's already stuff here too, right? And I think that kind of helps the people who might feel bad about coming and taking a jacket for their kids if they don't have one to donate.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can even start, you know, it's one of those things that save the date, you know, we could
Yeah.
put that out, this next month, right? And then the following month, oh, just a reminder, everybody,
Mhm.
you know, this is coming up, get your gear together, you know, blah, blah, blah. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of just focusing that, and then people will put it aside.
So is that something that we'd have here in this building or on the premises?
That's up for discussion.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
personally think in this building is better for that type of thing.
I do,
I agree.
I agree, yeah.
Well, we would need to speak with Jennifer to find out what the calendar looks like, because we can't interfere with the meetings that are already booked here.
Right.
So we just,
Yeah.
And I'm hesitant to store that kind of stuff in the barn.
oh yeah, I know. No, we
I have
probably
the
end
tack
up,
house, just
Okay.
heated, we could store it in the tack house,
that's the little one by the
Yeah.
play yard, okay.
yeah,
Used to be the barn store, the yarn store.
I know, it's now the tack house.
So let's tentatively plan that for May. I will get the word out that we're thinking of doing that, whether it's Facebook with a newsletter or whatever. Because we're a town committee, I have permission to put things like that in the newsletter or on the town website or anything like that if we want to.
I think it's a great idea, I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
It keeps it in our town and keeps things passed around and, you know,
Absolutely.
Saves people money.
Do you know if Brian has a closed box trailer that we could borrow for a few weeks?
he does. I don't know if he keeps gear in it or not.
We'll have to ask him when he comes back north.
Yeah. All right, so that was all I had on my official agenda. Does anyone have anything else for the committee?
Was the snowman building contest something that happened before or did not
It
happen?
hasn't happened. That's something that we had talked about
With a bonfire. and some hot
with a
cocoa.
bonfire, kind of an idea to pull out of our hats at the last minute if we got like a ton of snow one weekend and wanted to have a snowman building contest the following weekend.
But we haven't had that yet this year.
You gotta have the right kind of snow too.
Well, yeah.
You have to have the
absolutely.
right kind of snow,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true too.
So I don't see that happening this year.
No, kind of late to plan for February vacation, so.
Yeah, well, we can always monitor the weather too, right? So we've talked about it. We all have an idea in our head on what it might look like. So if we know we're going to have some heavy, wet snow coming in the future, we can say, hey, what do we think about trying to pull this together at the last minute?
So Terry has
Terry one.
on, February 11th is the Super Bowl Sunday sledding party at the
Yep.
foot of the Lake Hill. So that's like right around February vacation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's,
and we try not to, that's the big fundraiser.
Yeah, I mean-
for them.
yeah.
A big factor in that will be A, snow, and B, the right amount of snow,
Yeah, yeah.
or the right type of snow. This light fluffy stuff does not make
Yeah,
sense.
no.
The sledding parties, the food drive.
Yeah, something like that.
Other thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns for the committee, from the committee?
I've been thinking whether we should consider cleaning out the barn.
Oh, we need
And
to.
then there's
Oh, that's a
probably,
good
you know,
idea.
stuff in there that all of a sudden has never been used, and we don't have any use, and it's just taking up space.
Would you like to know a secret?
Uh,
I have been thinking about that for the past 2 years, but I've not brought it up yet.
Yeah, well, as I say.
I do think it's a great idea, especially if we're going to shore up that back section of the
Yeah,
barn.
Yeah,
Because it's gonna be easier if we could just take the stuff out of there before
No, I
we
can-
try to lift it up a little bit to put those supports under it.
it's just something we can think about. And
Yeah.
when we have a cleanup day, or we could go up there another Saturday or something like that, and run
Okay.
around there and just load the stuff up and take it out. Give us a
Yeah.
little bit more room to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we want to offer the barn to other organizations like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or Terry Minahan or something like that, having the barn cleaned out lends to that type of event very well,
Pick the date for.
right? So if we can get the barn cleaned up and all the
Yeah.
extraneous stuff out of there that we've never used,
And when do you put out the picnic tables and stuff? 'Cause I'm sure that takes up
then
Spring
we usually
cleanup.
go out on
Spring
spring
cleanup.
cleanup weekend.
in May.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that there's one
There's one we leave out year-round, that's the wooden one.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 plastic ones
Yeah.
that we put away every year so they don't disappear over the winter.
Or get blown away with the storms that we've
Yeah,
had
that
this
too.
year.
Yeah, that's true.
In the barn, there is, someone donated a wooden like dining room table, which also lends itself to some kind of meetings in there. So if we can get the barn cleaned out, we can set that up in the middle of the
Yeah.
barn and maybe, you know, set some of the plastic chairs around it so people can actually sit there and meet on a nice day and maybe have the doors open or something.
Nice. So is that something that we would want to do during cleanup?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot depends on
How much we clean up?
how much we clean up, how many trips to the dump I want to make that day.
Bring
How
the
many
muscle
trips
stand.
Dan's willing to make to the dump with me that day. But absolutely. I know there's a lot of stuff in there that hasn't been touched since Tammy and I joined the committee.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just miscellaneous wood or things like that that I really don't see us using. So,
Okay. Okay.
what else?
I think at one point we had moved a bunch of stuff up into the loft.
Yes, so there's some wood that I could see us using.
Oops.
Like rough boards if we had to fix a plank, a sideboard that came off of the barn or something. I think a couple of years ago, we put some of that up in the loft of the barn.
Yeah. We used a small child to climb
Yep.
up there.
Anything else?
I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
I'm nominating you next year, by the way. All right,
Sounds good.
looking for a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
I
Second
second.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We are adjourned at 10:55 a.m. Thank you all.